What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's the conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back, and a little bit late because, it's always Rob's fault. But speaking of Rob, he is here also with me, co-hosting as ever. So yes.
Going on, everybody.
Yes, a lot of things going on for us on the behind the scenes side. We for those of you who haven't seen the test footage, we did get new equipment, and we actually did get started using it, and we've already recorded 3 episodes using the equipment.
Yeah. Like, with my overall gas baggery, Andy's probably getting tired of seeing my face. So
yeah, I know it's a little much because I have 3 videos. I had to see you. I had to see you in person over 2 days, and then I have to do this with you, and I have to spend like a couple of weeks, editing the video, which include you. So. So I'm definitely getting an overdose of Robert right now.
It's trust me, it's a bit much for everyone involved.
I bet. All right, let's get this conversation started. Would you prefer how we've been doing lately and doing the review at the end, or?
Yeah, we can save the review for the end. That works for me.
All right. Well, yeah, there's a few things, going on in the news recently that, that have caught both me and Robert's attention. So I guess one of the first things would be the recent banning of Gavin McInnes. For those of you not familiar with Gavin McInnes, it's funny because he actually mentions this and how tired of it he is. But he was one of the co-founders of Vice.
Yeah.
Vice, the HBO, news magazine kind of thing, kind of like 60 Minutes, but for like millennials.
Yeah.
And so yeah, well, but he mentioned actually in. And I forget what it was. I think it's one of his news shows on CRTV where he's like tired of like the moniker of co-founder of Vice. He's like, how long does it have to be till I'm no longer associated with that place? Because
every article that's blasting him is always conflating him as co-founder of Vice. It's like right. He has, but it's like but he other things.
Right, but he also left Vice under bad terms with with his business partner. So
right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's upset with the way that Vice has gone, in subsequent years.
Oh, yeah, he makes fun of it. He talks, crap about it now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly what we talked about when we were talking about Alex Jones. It's you might not like what Alex Jones is definitely more on the. You could say extreme side. To be honest, I think there's a lot that he says that has a lot of merit and truth to it. But
right.
I can see where he is, a little bit on the crazier side in majority of people's opinions.
Right. I mean, maybe not crazy. I would, more categorize as far-fetched.
Crazy in the sense of not he himself is crazy, but more of. He's a.
I guess some of the things that he postulates is a little hard to swallow or a little far fetched.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm meaning.
Yeah, at least for the time being. But then sometimes he is proven right.
Yeah, well, like I said, I all his stuff that he's talked about with a lot of for the a lot of the child molestation stuff. That was all it's starting to come with I thought it was just here's another tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. But then you actually, look into the evidence, you do the digging, and it's oh crap, he was right.
Really because what was it? When he was talking about the pedophiles and how he was saying he had sources within law, certain law enforcement agencies, and here even in LA they busted a pedophile ring, and arrested like 400 people.
Jeez, yeah.
And so, some
It's
might say, "Oh, that's coincidence," but he's been saying it for a long time. He was saying like there's going to be a major bust that's going to be happening, and it ended up happening.
yeah. But anyways, so he's, I would say, on, not like the alt-right, extreme, but he's an extreme personality. I'll say that.
Okay.
And so obviously, he's saying things that are unpopular to a number of people, but he's not like, they're banding about banning him. And it's like, well, but the problem with that is, if you take away his right to free speech, no one says anything about it, who's the next person that's going to go? Well, here we're seeing that starting to fall. With now we have Gavin McInnes.
Oh, bother. Well, we seem to have.
Another conservative that.
Hey, Robert, can you back up a bit? Because the connection got disconnected.
No, I got a call. That's why and it paused everything. So fantastic. Okay. From the usual sources that I just said that I was going to be doing something, but they call me anyways. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so what I was saying is that the dominoes are falling of people that they're. I mean, he hasn't been banned on all social media services, but Twitter has now banned Gavin McInnes, and those dominoes are falling for conservatives, and it's they're unless we all start fighting back, this is what's gonna keep continuing down the line.
Right. I mean, but it's funny because the people on the left, they don't ever think that it's gonna, come and hurt them. They never think that, it's the saying that I always say is, don't be so foolish that you think that the knife you sharpen for your enemies can't find its way into you. And it's just a matter of time before that happens, because
yeah. Well, I was saying, what's crazy is in the case of guys like Alex Jones or Gavin McInnes, and they're funny guys. Gavin, he's a stand-up comedian, and he tends to say unpopular things. But then
I am a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan of Gavin McInnes.
Me too.
I particularly love the compilation videos you can find on YouTube of him just triggering feminists. I think that was my favorite one, where he was on Hannity, and he was, he and this woman who was a feminist was on, and he deliberately was saying things to fluster her and to.
I thought she was gonna have a brain aneurysm.
Right, because he was saying like, oh, like women, would be much happier at home with the kids, and then, you can see the vein in that woman's head, and she demanded that Sean Hannity apologize to his viewers for what Gavin said, and it's like you can see and then you can see Sean Hannity just laughing because because she's getting all triggered or whatever.
But yeah, so what they're saying is unpopular, but they're not necessarily saying something really I would say awful. But then you look at someone like Peter Fonda, who is saying that we should calling for Barron Trump to be raped by pedophiles, and
right, yeah, I mean,
which is way worse than anything.
Right, because he's calling for a specific action. And the reason that Twitter gave for Alex Jones banning was was something that he said that was taken out of context. You know, the whole like, oh, get your battle rifles ready. You know, which is taken out of context because you know, I mean, people were, you know, they were trying to look for it, but you know, because YouTube has been scrubbing the videos off or shut down his channel, people can't find it, and it's only those people who were, you know, who archived it and saved it do they understand the context. And the context was a more defensive action. You know, more, you know, telling, you know, more like right leaning or conservative members of his viewership to, you know, be careful, you know, just to be prepared, and you know, because you know, I think at the time there was a lot of you know, violence happening, particularly on the left, particularly on, you know, those in Antifa, you know, and with the, you know, with all the doxing going on. So you know, I think it was just more of like a defensive, like be on your guard kind of, not a rallying call to arms to go and march out into the street and shoot, you know, and you know, kill people.
Right. And well, and you know, the crazy thing about Gavin, you look at like what they didn't even give him a reason. They just say it was suspended for ... There was no reason ever given for why he was suspended.
Right. Yeah. I saw that. I saw that video. Too, and he was like, yeah, it's like they said I was suspended, but not to come, but to never come back forever. It's like, that's not what suspended means, you know?
Right.
But they didn't give him a reason. They didn't like cite any specific tweet or you know, or anything of that sort. But yeah, it's you know, and it's all, you know, like the platforming, you know, is all very political, and it's all very, you know, calculated and timed, you know, because you know the midterm elections are, you know, coming up, and you know, I think those on the left, and I think you know, this is not confirmed, but their you know, DNC overlords have, you know, decreed that we need to that they need to get rid of all of the influential people on the right off their platforms, you know, and you know, I think Alex Jones was like kind of like the case study, you know, but also because you know, President Trump actually thanked Alex Jones for his winning of the 2016 election.
Yeah, so you know, they're gonna go after, you know, Trump could say that he loves puppies, and then they're going to be stringing puppies up in the middle of the street. So anything that, you know, Trump likes is like, oh, we got to destroy this. So
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like people. You know, if Trump himself were to discover a cure for cancer, you know, the left would then go and say like, oh, how dare you ruin the pharmaceutical companies that make the the cancer drugs or whatever.
Yeah, right. Oh boy. But yeah, you know, it's just the you know, the dominoes keep falling, and you know, it's like, I think, you know, well, you know, Gavin, you know, has said that he's gonna, you know, fight back, you know, against Twitter, because it's like, you know, it's a you know, defamation of his character, and he's like, right. You know, I don't need this platform, but someone should have, you know, there should be some sort of accountability, you know, because these groups have a monopoly on social media, and to say that they don't work together is a huge lie.
I mean,
because
yeah,
they do.
I mean, there's
like what happened to Alex Jones. That was a conspiracy of them working together.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, and people will throw out, you know, put the moniker of conspiracy theorist, you know, but you know, conspiracy, you know, theories aren't necessarily bad or, you know, insane, you know, because there was, you know, it was obvious that the major tech companies, they conspired to deplatform him. You know, and that's not insane. That's what happened. They conspired. You know, they pulled that, you know, mafia move, you know, in the middle of the night, you know, to you know, the mafia move to go, you know, in the middle of the night and kill your enemy. That's what they did. They conspired. It's not a theory. It's obvious.
it was a leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they drive the guy out in the middle of nowhere. They put a 38 into his melon and then walk away.
Yeah.
Fresh cannolis in hand. But yeah, that's a conspiracy. It's not it's not crazy to think that it's not crazy. That's what happened. It's obvious.
Yeah. The thing what's happening though is that they are. There's been many people now have started to say this, that they are acting as as a publishing agent, and instead of just a free form platform for people to voice their opinions and interact with one another, but they can't come out and say that, because then it opens themselves up to lots of. They would bankrupt themselves if they.
Right. Yeah. With all the suits. Yeah. With the libel and defamation. Wait, libel is print, right? Defamation is spoken.
There's I always get those two mixed up. I believe you're right, but I could also be wrong, because I always get those two mixed up. But yes, it's one is for the. Is the written word, and then the other is the spoken word.
Hold on, let's see.
We have our very own Sven computer in Andy.
Yep. Libel is a written or published defamatory statement, which, while slander is a defamation that is spoken by the defendant. So yeah, libel is for print, and slander / defamation is spoken.
Right. Yeah. So it's just, but that's they can't come out and say that they're a publishing agent, but their actions show that they're acting in that manner.
Right, because they're picking and choosing what people can see, and they're curating people's feeds.
And it just always happens to be, it's seemingly towards the conservative leaning people.
Yeah, or against the conservative leaning or right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, if this was happening on the right, I'd be saying just the same. But right now, but it's not. It's right now. It's happening on the left. And maybe there'll be a time where the pendulum swings too far again towards the right. But yeah, I'll still be saying the same thing. That that censorship, and I understand those people who say oh well these are private companies. The First Amendment was created to keep the government in check. It's well, okay, fine, but the spirit or the culture of free speech should still be upheld, though.
Right.
If it's codified into our laws, then it should I think companies would, especially social media companies and the like, would do well to honor that spirit and the culture of free speech.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things that like I said, it's a free form platform that should kind of abide. It's we're just here a platform that the only thing that we're doing is just making sure it works and is being used and whatnot. The when it comes to and free speech doesn't mean anti-consequences. It doesn't mean that you can say what you want,
right?
But there might also, anything has good or bad consequences. And in the case of if I was working for a certain business entity and I said something that was horrendous, obviously I can expect to be reprimanded or whatever. But in the case of this is just, it's supposed to be a free form platform for people to share ideas and to converse with one another, but consistently they're blocking people from just one side of that conversation that they don't like.
Right.
That to me is just pretty egregious, because no one on our side of the spectrum has ever asked for anybody on that side to be blocked.
Oh, right. Yeah, because even though things are said that I don't particularly like, I've never demanded that that person be deplatformed, or their Twitter account be suspended, or their YouTube channel be shut down. I just won't watch it anymore.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
because I've exercised that ability numerous times. Because there are YouTube channels. Like, for example, there are YouTube channels that I used to watch, semi-regularly, and I was subscribed. But once,
Chink Yeager fan.
What was that?
You Chink Yeager fan.
Yeah, I mean, but once they started, like, saying stuff that, I, didn't agree with, or I just found to be unpalatable, I unsubscribed. I walked away, and I stopped watching their content.
Yeah, you didn't ask for them to bring me the head of so and so, and
yeah, I didn't ask them. I didn't say, I didn't call them names. I didn't say that they were, idiots, or I didn't, say that I was gonna burn their houses down. I just was like, all right, that's the way you're gonna go. Then, I'll just take I'll take my eyeballs elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, because I've done the same thing where there's certain people I'll listen to even though I don't necessarily agree with them, but if they're of sound mind and they're making sound arguments, like, oh, okay, I could see like why they would see a certain situation this way. But then there's certain people where the argument that they're making is like, oh, okay, so you just don't have good ideas, and having that sense of that idea, or this train of thought, like, you don't actually want that conversation or any sort of intellectual challenge. And those are the type of people that I tend to walk away from, because it's like, why am I going to listen to this person? There's nothing to be gained from listening or debating with that type of person. So, and like you,
yeah.
It's just, but I don't call for their head. I just like, okay, I just won't listen anymore.
Yeah, I don't like what you say. I don't agree with it. I find your line of, the logic train to be flawed. So, I'm not enjoying this anymore. So I'm just gonna take my eyeballs elsewhere. That happened to me particularly with the Cracked channel on YouTube.
Yeah,
it used to be really fun. They had like that's their show After Hours, where they would dissect like TV shows and comic books and books and just that kind of stuff. And it was really fun, and it was really enjoyable. But then they added like a completely different cast, who I didn't find enjoyable. And then and it just so happens because like the original cast was 3 men and 1 woman, but then they decided to flip it and do 3 women and 1 man, and then also like the men in the original one were like kind of majority white, or like they're all white, even the woman. But in this one they decided to like switch it up and like get like one obvious ethnic face in there and or whatever, but it just, and then like they completely like slanted it towards like a more feminist lens and all, feminist lens, and I was just like, oh, this isn't enjoyable anymore. So I stopped watching that. And also they came out with like this kind of like quasi like new funny like this satirical news program, but then all it was is just railing against the president. Which I don't mind if you rail against the president, but you're a comedy channel, but you're making all of like these unhinged, unfunny like shows.
They're trying to be as much like Samantha Bee as possible.
Right, I know. That's what they're doing. They're following the Samantha Bee plan.
like, let's just not be funny, but we'll still get viewers somehow.
I know. So, and then also try and win an Emmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yesterday I was with Robert, and we were going to get lunch, and then we happened upon we were at an intersection, and then I noticed on the corner that there was a billboard, and it was a billboard for Samantha Bee's show, and it was one of those award show billboards where it's like, for your consideration. I was like, who the hell watches that show?
I don't think I've seen more than like 10 seconds of her show.
Truth.
Just you see like the ads like for her show. I always see like the ads for her show because I do watch other stuff on like TBS and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's just like even the ads, I'm like, wow, this is. And those are supposed to be the highlights. Is like to draw you in to watch it, and it's like this is complete crap.
Right.
But hey, someone's going to give them an Emmy, I guess. So, so be it.
So.
But yeah, it was. Yeah, it's kind of a sad day when we're just we don't like what people are saying, so we have to destroy them or outright just ban them. And there's been evidence to show that a lot of people that the bigwigs up that work with these companies they work on shadow banning people or
I mean, what was it like earlier this year, like before even summer, what's his face, Project Veritas, they got someone undercover at Twitter, and there was an engineer that admitted to them shadow banning people.
Yeah.
So like it's not just again, it's not just a conspiracy theory. It happened. It was a conspiracy. They did it.
Right.
And everyone's like still saying that, oh, it's conspiracy. Shadow banning is just a conspiracy. It's like, well, no, they conspired. They did it. Boom.
When you have these like top people that are saying that they're doing it, it's not a conspiracy theory at that point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that one person.
Or like at the least, it's not a theory anymore. It's an actuality.
Right. Yeah. That's shouldn't be the case at all. But this is the world that we live in now.
Yeah. I mean. This is the world this is the world that they want. With all of their policies, with all of, their flawed logic, this is the world that they wanted.
It's instead they want to live in a bouncy house Nerf world where, they grind out the, sharp edge, protect people from the sharp edges. It's like, well, that's not life anymore.
Yeah. Makes me so sad.
Yeah.
But not as sad as learning how truly stupid Al Sharpton is.
Oh, that was both hilarious and very sad at the same time.
Right? Because it's not just Al Sharpton though, because as those of you out there might know, Aretha Franklin passed last week.
One of the great voices of our time.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and on and on and on and on.
Beautiful singing voice.
Yeah, I mean, because like the way that she sung, back then wasn't considered the right way to sing.
Right.
What was it? Like traditional vocal coaches would tell her, "Oh, you're gonna lose your voice by the time you're 50." Because like the way she sang was very, they were right when like it was like hard on the vocals, but they are wrong that that she was gonna end up losing her voice. Because she
Yeah,
was
no.
she was performing almost like up until the day she died. So suck on that. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, but so yeah, she was a pioneer in that way also. Just proving people wrong. But a couple of days ago, the Reverend Al Sharpton on his show on MSNBC, was giving like a tribute to Aretha Franklin, and ended it on saying like, oh, all we need is respect. But to honor Aretha Franklin, he tried to be clever and decided to spell it. But in so doing, he misspelled he spelled the misspelling of respect by replacing the E at the end with an I.
Oh yeah, RESPICT, because that's how you spell respect.
Exactly. But then it also that brings up another question, because because he was doing it on his show. So you
Obviously, had to
obviously
politicize her corpse. That was real classy of him.
what was that?
I was saying it's really classy to politicize her death. That was and then
True, but but even she admits that the song "Respect" became a bit of a bit of an anthem for during the civil rights era. And that's fine, because she as the artist, she acknowledges that it was it became the anthem for the civil rights movement. Okay,
yeah, but that was actually fighting for something.
right. That was actually for fighting for real stakes, and and the real what is it? We're fighting against the real erasure of people.
Yeah.
Or the erasure of personhood from people. So yeah, that I'll give it to you. But Al Sharpton tries to honor and fails miserably. And it's funny because he was doing it on his show, and he was in all likelihood reading off a teleprompter. And so was it he just messed up? Was it just he that messed up, or was whoever who put the spelling of respect into the teleprompter messed up? And in that case, you have at least 2 confirmed idiots on that show.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh boy, it's just that was always my question. It's like, was this something where he went off like on his own? Which okay, maybe it's live television, whatever, but it's still kind of a tough, pretty big mistake, especially if you claim to know Aretha Franklin like you say you do.
Mm-hmm.
But then but if it was through like a teleprompter, and then the guy in the teleprompter wrote it that way, and then you who knew knew what was going on still read it the wrong way. It's just a lot of terrible errors.
Yeah. It's just sad is all it is. It's just it's funny and it's sad and it's kind of despicable of him to politicize your death. But
well, that's what the left does. I mean, there's no
right, because nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred.
There's no opportunity for them that they won't try to mold to their gain.
Right.
Oh gosh. And I always tend to put a question mark at the end of Reverend for Al Sharpton, because that guy is just I can't. There's a lot of to me he seems like a very fake. I can't imagine him being
yeah, like the image of him, like for some reason I can't picture him sitting at a desk with with a Bible. The image just doesn't work to me.
No.
You know?
And I doubt that there's much that he knows about the Bible. I have a very strong feeling about that. Can't confirm it, but nothing
it's,
from
yeah,
his...
it's just a strong inclination to to think that I'm sure he can't even I'm sure he doesn't even know the first 3 words of the Bible.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, just based off of some of the things that he says or does, it's just it was one thing, like, yeah, we're all sinners, whatnot, we make mistakes, and so we tend to all be hypocrites in one sense of the word, because we have a certain belief system but don't necessarily always live up to that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as things that he says that in conjunction with, if he's connecting with scripture, seems kind of off. So it's kind of that, like, very loosey-goosey theology that always kind of drives me insane.
Right. And what is it? Yeah, he has, like, I think he hasn't paid his taxes in, like, for a good long while. I think he's, like, I think he was charged with something, like tax evasion or something.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was him or Jesse Jackson that was involved with that, but
I'm pretty sure it was Al Sharpton.
Okay.
I mean, just the title, because I think even, like, to tie it back to Gavin McInnes, he was the one that I think mentioned it in a video that I watched a while back.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of we found that both funny and kind of just crazy at the same time.
Right. It's just like, the song teaches you how to spell the damn word, and yet you still misspell it.
Yeah.
RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. I mean, yeah. I mean, if it was merely like a Ron Burgundy situation, and he just even if it was a Ron Burgundy situation, it still doesn't make it better, because then it just confirms that he's an idiot.
Right.
Right, because even though he saw the mistake in art, in respect, he still read it. Right, and then also, but then if it was in the teleprompter, that means someone put it in incorrectly, and so it means there's another idiot on that show.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Jeez.
Well, speaking of more ironic news, you have some more irony to share with us.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, tied to Jesse Jackson, it's morally bankrupt. Also,
that too.
Well, because there's some other stuff that I found out about this, but recently, Asia Argento, girlfriend to deceased, celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain, has been accused of sexually assaulting a minor. The person in question was a 17-year-old actor at the time who played Argento's son in a movie. I forget what the title of the movie is, but yeah, apparently, like, apparently, like, she was the aggressor. She was the aggressor. She engaged. She was the one who engaged. And then he asked for, like, I don't know if he sued or he just asked for like $1 million to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, and it's like, because she was one of the kind of the heads of like the Me
Right?
Too
Yeah, she was
movement
one
or
of the
Time's
first.
Up is one of those that was part of that.
Yeah, as soon as it was started, as soon as it was safe for her to, step up, she was one of the first to, accuse Harvey Weinstein of rape. And
Yeah.
and she was one of the leaders of like the de facto leaders of the Me Too movement. And then all of a sudden, this thing comes about, and you'll never guess what happened because Rose McGowan called for her head. She said, "Burn,
Wow.
burn that slut at the stake. Let's rally behind this poor little victim boy, and go after Argento."
Wow.
Oh, no, wait, not bad. She didn't do those things. Rose McGowan didn't do those things because
surprise.
What was that?
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Rose McGowan put out a tweet asking people to be gentle. To basically wait until all the facts come out.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's because she's done that with every other situation, right?
Yeah, every other situation where it was a man being accused, right?
Yeah. Oh,
God, it's even like I forget who she is, but like it's like this black lady that Asia Argento was photographed with, and like also like one of the de facto leaders of the Me Too movement. But like even like she put out a tweet saying like, oh yeah, let's wait for the facts. Let's not all jump to conclusions.
And the scary thing is because obviously I want to take people seriously. Obviously that throwing that accusation, that's something really big.
Right. It's a serious accusation. But it's like as soon as it's a woman, it's like whoa, we need to wait. Well, we need to wait. We need to wait. We need to wait till we pass judgment. We need to wait for all the facts to come out. Because it's a woman. But because but if it was a man, it's like it's like cut off his dick and and gouge out his eyes.
Yeah. And yes, there definitely are people that like, oh, you know what, yeah, it kind of deserves that. But then there's been so many lives ruined, at the hand of the mob that does this, and where people are getting accused, given no recourse to defend themselves, having their lives destroyed, and then there's nothing that they did.
Precisely. Yeah, like that kid at Columbia with Emma Solkowitz, Mattress Girl. Before they even like charged him with legally charged him with a crime, they kicked him out of school.
Yeah.
Before like there was even a trial, before he even had a chance to like go in and like make a plea or whatever, they just kicked him out. And it wasn't until later where they found out that it was all it was a lie. The school didn't issue an apology. The school didn't, refund his money.
He had to sue the school.
Yeah, he had to sue the school to get his reputation back.
The reputation is gone, but like he at least got his money back.
Right, and I mean similarly with the Duke lacrosse guys, same thing.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about some of these issues with when we were kind of reviewing 13 Reasons Why, and how there was like a lot of that same like sentiment of just obviously, well, in the case of the show, these quote unquote things happen to these girls, and but then it's like kind of it's my thing and I don't really want to say it because it's not safe for me to do so. Well, it's like, well, if all of you come at once and you share the evidence that you clearly had, and they found the evidence that was there, to be able to prove their story. They're like, well, no, we can't do that. And it's like, well, then how are we supposed to, well, A, do anything, or B, take people seriously? It's like, it's horrible if that did happen to you. It's horrible, but if you don't show some bravery to step up to stop these people, then you're almost as complicit as when they go out and do it to somebody else, because you could have prevented that crime.
But see, here's the thing I don't like about that show is because you know that these guys are that these guys are scumbags. You know that these guys actually did the thing. There's there's no doubt cast on it. Because because when you watch the show, you're given they show it to you. You're given you're basically when you watch that show, you were God, so you know everything, right? As opposed to in real life, you don't know what happens. So that's and that's why you wait for facts to come out. You wait for the evidence. You wait, and you weigh all of that stuff, and then you make a determination.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I didn't like about the show, because it was because you're supposed to hate the bad guys because you know that they're bad guys.
Right.
As opposed to real life where you don't know, and you should be slow to pull that trigger, because once you pull that trigger, it can't be unpulled. And so
yep.
Yeah, and I mean this is the lesson that these women, what is it, Rose McGowan and Asia Argento and countless other of these feminist types are learning that once you pull a trigger, you can't unpull it.
Well, listen, and then it's kind of this is where, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, we're all kind of laughing at Corey Feldman. It's like, oh, he's wearing his tinfoil hat, and but at least that but then come to find out that a lot of what he was saying
mm-hmm.
was kind of true in Hollywood, that there is this there is this atmosphere that is is throughout Hollywood,
mm-hmm.
and at least in some sense he had the balls to stand up for himself, and well, he is a crazy person, but he's a crazy person because of what's been done to him.
Yeah, he's crazy because that's the way they made him.
But he didn't care about his career, at least. He's like, hey, I don't want other kids to suffer like me and Corey Haim and others did.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of destroyed his reputation and his career, but he at least had the balls to say something.
Yeah, and it definitely killed Corey Haim.
We didn't hear word one from any of the Rose McGowans or any of these other people until it was kind of fashionable to do so.
Yeah, until it was advantageous for them to do so, to come out and say oh yeah, that guy inappropriately touched me, or we were passing each other in a narrow hallway and he brushed up against me.
And there's a difference between coming out and sharing if there is an investigation, sharing with the authorities investigating, hey, this happened to me as well, and this is what happened to me, and sharing that, and not necessarily throwing out in the public, because you look at someone like I think it was Terry Crews, because he had a situation like that too, and he chose to there was an agent or something like that was kind of trying to do something to him, and he didn't.
He was this gay agent, and he was being he was being really wild and flamboyant, and he was feeling up on Terry Crews.
Right, and the only time that he was talking about it publicly was more after he finished his testifying about it, and this and saying there should be more of a investigation into some of these people that are in Hollywood, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to take a hit in my career for it, but hey, you know what, I'm not going to work with certain people anymore, or these projects anymore, until something's done about it. So I have, you know, in his case, I have a lot of respect for him in that way. It's like he's not really caring about his career; he just wants something done.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, more power to those, people who like, actually take a step forward, at great cost to themselves. Yeah, because I remember that when he was testifying before Congress or whatever, and he was saying that like, he's not going to be in like the next Expendables movie.
Yeah.
Because he is coming out and calling out people. And so yeah, like that is like completely respectable and admirable. But like now
it's sad for me because I love Expendables, so and I liked him in it. But
right, yeah,
hey,
I just love Terry Crews. I love them. Even in White Chicks.
Yeah, freaking hilarious.
It was great. I loved him. I love that guy. And I loved him when he was the dad on Everybody Hates Chris, and
he's great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think I didn't really get into that, but
great show.
Great show. What was I saying? Yeah, but it's it just shows like the hypocrisy, because like now that it's one of their own, now that it's a woman, they have to circle the wagons. They have to like call for, oh, let's be measured. Let's hold off judgment till we know all the facts. But then they're also trying to paint this guy as this opportunist who is only trying to milk trying to milk her for money.
Well, then you look at like let's say like the case of Harvey Weinstein, where people like Meryl Streep and Oprah are best friends with this guy up until like the last second when it's unfashionable to be so.
Right. Yeah,
to be close to them.
It's that Harvey Weinstein was at Titanic, and Meryl Streep and Oprah Winfrey were the last two to get on the last lifeboat.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
And same thing with like Hillary Clinton too. Like they were super close friends too.
Oh yeah, he was a big DNC donator. But
and then and they're like, no, we're always against this. We had no idea what was going on, which is utter horseshit. Because
like the whole Meryl Streep thing was like, well, I had no idea.
There's a lot of smoke to the fire that Oprah was kind of recruiting for Weinstein. And
there's like that. I mean, it's not proof, but there's that infamous photograph of, I think, what's that British girl's name? Rita something.
Yeah, I forget exactly what her name was.
Yeah, but like it's like it's Oprah and Weinstein, and in between is Rita Ora, and like she looks very uncomfortable. She looks like she looks freaked out. Or she at the very least she doesn't look comfortable sitting there. And I mean, and again, I'm not saying that that's proof, but I think that as you were saying, that's one of the smoke. That's part of the smoke.
Right, and but then you still have like Meryl Streep like openly supporting Roman Polanski, who is, it's not I don't think it's alleged anymore. Like it
no, he's convicted. He was convicted. He was convicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he bounced. Yeah, he was convicted, and he was supposed to show up again for sentencing, and then he just bounced to Poland or whatever, or wherever.
Yep, that's pretty disgusting stuff.
Right. Well, also disgusting was the response that Asia Argento put out, because she did remain silent, but then when she did came out, what she said was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life, and I hope that she stubbed her toe to death.
What was you remember what her statement was? I don't remember reading that.
Well, basically, she tried to blame Anthony Bourdain.
Wow.
Or not blame, but she was saying like, or because like I guess there was a payment that was made to this kid,
Mm-hmm.
but she was saying that, oh, Anthony was the one who paid it. Anthony said like, oh, let's just get this brushed under the rug. She was basically trying to obfuscate like her sexually assaulting this kid by saying like, oh, but Anthony Bourdain actually paid the hush money.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
so
that is
much
the
for
most
love.
despicable thing I ever heard. Especially because you were cheating on him, and like I'm not saying that that was the reason why he killed himself, but I'm not saying that it wasn't a
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
saying it wasn't a contributing factor.
Yeah, there's that's pretty fucked up.
Right? Yeah, I've never like that's like that's the most disgusting thing I ever heard in my life. You know, for someone like this is someone that that she supposedly loved, and now she's like just like casting all of like her like using him as a scapegoat because he guess what, he's not alive to rebut or defend himself. That's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, because if he was alive, like I wonder if like she would have done that, or like or if she was like, or yeah, that's just that's real low.
I know. Well, like if he was alive, I know that she would try and get him to say that that it was him that try to quiet the kid or pay the money. But I mean,
Right.
I think, despite all of Anthony Bourdain's flaws or character defects, I think he's still alpha enough to be like fuck no.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like no, it's like yeah, he was said fuck no, you handle this.
That's your problem.
Yeah, but again, that was like yeah, I was so disgusted to hear about that.
Wow, I didn't read that. That's man, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah. So again, I hope she stubs her toe to death.
Yeah. Boy. Well, you know what? I need some cheering up, Andy.
Yes. So, and me too, dude. Oh god. It's like,
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad we went the direction of ending on a good note instead of
right.
starting
Yeah.
on a
No.
good note.
Yeah. Because I would. Yeah. Because like. Yeah. Just like that whole like that. It's so disgusting that like I feel like I'm probably gonna have to take a shower after this.
Yep.
I mean that's how tainted I feel by by talking about this, by like by hearing about like this woman who is like obfuscating her sexual assault by her like dead boyfriend.
Wow. It's just that's pretty ridiculous stuff.
Right.
And and maybe it's true that like what she because she was part of that like Me Too stuff. Maybe what she said happened to her did happen,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that doesn't make it right that you did it to someone else. It's kind of
yeah. Right. Oh, and it was like within the time frame that that she was. I think that she was with Bourdain.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like it also. But when that comes out, it also casts a ton of doubt on your whole statement that maybe it happened. It happened to me too. Me too. It casts a lot of doubt on that, all of that stuff in my eyes.
Dude, yeah, they lost me a long time ago. But then what cemented my no longer taking that movement seriously was the Aziz Ansari piece.
Right.
Because because what I read was this girl had a really bad date, but then she still went down on Aziz Ansari.
Right.
That's all I heard. I didn't hear a story of Aziz attacking her, holding her down, or whatever. it was just a really bad date, and a guy who's like really not that good with the ladies.
No, he's very awkward.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I heard.
I'm not necessarily an Aziz fan, but like at the same time, he's not like the. There's not many people he's gonna overpower. I'll just say that. So it's, it seemed very and if you didn't want to like go back to his apartment,
Right.
At
he
midnight,
was like constantly.
What do you think is gonna happen at 2:00, 3:00 in the morning?
Yeah, nothing good happens after 2 p.m. or 2 a.m.
That's true.
But yeah, but like it wasn't like he was like forcing you. It's not like he had like a secret button that locked all the doors or windows or whatever.
Yeah.
You could right, and like it was already suspicious too because like the way like when she met him, she was already out with another guy. It was
right.
It was like some like Emmy's after party or whatever, and then like she was with a date, I think at that time her boyfriend, and then she gave him her number.
Right. It's
so
just
so you're dating this guy, but then you see a guy with more status, and so you're like, fuck that other guy.
Right. Yeah, pretty sad stuff.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. Yeah, because I'm not a fan of Aziz Ansari too, but he didn't deserve to get Me Too'd.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and they tried to, someone tried to pull that with, crap. Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? The guy from that does Talking Dead, Chris Hardwick.
Oh yeah, Chris Hardwick. Yeah.
But and for me, it's kind of one of those like kind of a lefty kind of guy, left leaning.
Mm-hmm.
But in his defense, I mean, he had a lot of his like ex-girlfriends and his wife who came out in support of him at least. And it seemed very like kind of out of character for him because he's kind of one of those like awkward guys too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it kind of looked like one of those like hit jobs where maybe she's not doing so well, and Chris Hardwick is his career is kind of moved in a good direction, and so like they want to they're not happy, so let me burn everything to the ground.
Yeah. Precisely.
And what the real sad thing is in this whole thing is the people that are actual victims and that are being victimized and have been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
These people are destroying, are kind of making it so it's harder for real victims to get justice.
Of course, because for me, like, there's only so many times I can hear a story about a woman who supposedly got raped or whatever, and then I'm just, whether it's true, if it's true or not, I'm just gonna be like, I don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of come to the point. It's like if I don't know the person, like I really like don't. It's gotten to the point where it's like I almost have no like. Let's see if it's anything real to this, because otherwise it's like I have no sympathy anymore. Which is not a good thing. I don't want to be that type of person. But
yeah, I don't want to be that cynical guy that's always casting doubt. It's like, oh well, what really happened?
Right.
What he's like, yeah, what really happened? Were you guys both drinking? And then it just makes me sound like an asshole. When in reality, I'm just like I'm so tired of being amped up to 11. When all of these, when all of these things happen, and I'm supposed to feel like I'm supposed to be at 11 at, all the time for these certain kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, and to clarify, Andy and I we're not saying that we're like pro rape or, pro asshole, like, guy or girl, being a predator on on people who can't defend themselves, and you take advantage of them in a sexual manner or whatever. That's a horrible thing to do, and obviously we are against that. Nobody,
yeah, nobody here on this podcast is advocating for that shit.
Yeah, no one's saying "woo, rape." It's no real person has ever said that in. Yeah, no predator has ever said, or non-predator has ever said that.
Exactly. Yeah. So if all you've heard is, if all you've heard out of me saying, if all you've heard out of me tonight is like, it's like, I like rape. Rape is good. Then you are a fucking moron, and someone should take away the internet from you until you grow up.
Yeah, we're not the gang from A Clockwork Orange.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not Alex.
Yeah.
We're not condoning the forceful in out.
Exactly.
All right, let's switch gears because this is like getting me all pissed off and depressed. So
my rage-ahol is spiked a little bit.
Right? Yeah. So let's switch gears and let's go. Let's move into our movie of the week, which was Barry Lyndon, written, and
it was. He produced and directed it, I think.
No, but like I remember at the end, it was also, I think he said, like, written too.
Oh, damn! He did everything then.
Yeah, he basically did it. Yeah, produced, written, and directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, speaking of the movie, well, for one thing, Andy and I actually got to watch it together. It wasn't just
it's one of the rare instances that we actually got to watch a movie of the week together. But we were together recording for the main podcast, and it just kind of ended up happening.
Yeah, it worked out. So we watched that. For one thing, if you're not a fan of a slower paced film, this one might not be for you. It is a little slow paced at times, and it is it's definitely a marathon. When you have an intermission in the middle of a movie, that's a marathon.
Right? Yeah. When there's when the director gives you a dedicated period of rest. Yeah, you're in for some shit.
Yeah. But other than that, I had to say that of the Kubrick films that we've watched so far, this is the one that I've liked the most. Now, story-wise, it is it's based off the book. I forget the full title of the book, but it's like the it's not The Strange Case of Barry Lyndon or something like that. It's not that, but it's there is a book that it is based off of. And
hold on.
Oh, you're pulling up the title of the book?
Yeah. Let's see. Based on the 1844 novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon by William Makepeace Thackeray.
Oh, actually, that's a very apt title because we were, and we'll get into like why that is kind of an apt title for the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, we noticed a lot of luck in the film.
Right, but I was right. Yeah, the movie was directed, produced, and screenplay by Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, I didn't doubt you, Andy.
Oh. Just making sure.
Yeah.
So what? Barry Lyndon is about this guy in like the 18th century. That's 1700s for those of you who don't follow. In the 18th century, and he's not necessarily born into a high status. and he like, and so like there's like this constant like chain of events that happen that force him down like a certain life path. And yeah, like Robert was saying, the luck in the title of the book is definitely apt because some of the situations that he finds himself getting into are are strictly by luck.
Yep.
And yeah, and so uh, towards like the middle of the movie, it's like him coming into this great fortune and marrying into this really well-off family. But like most stories, it doesn't end very well for him.
Well, let's say this: like pretty much every other Stanley Kubrick film, it does not end well for the main characters.
That's true. That's true. Fair enough. Yeah. Wait, but then can you so the main character in Doctor Strangelove was the pilot.
Well, I would say, I mean, there's with Doctor Strangelove, it wasn't just necessarily one particular main character, but the
Well, I mean that's the
characters
worst. But the worst thing happens to him though.
True. Well, I mean, it happens. I mean, if you think about it, everyone has bad luck because that doomsday device was set off, so everyone had bad luck.
Oh wait, it was set off?
Yeah, right at the end where you saw all the nukes go off and stuff.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
So
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So yeah, you were saying that out of the Kubrick films that we've watched, this one is your favorite?
Correct.
Okay.
So I liked it because it's just one of those. While yes, it is slow paced, it did kind of there was enough happening where it kept you interested in the story. Like the actor who played initially his name is Redmond Barry, and he later becomes Barry Lyndon. He changes his name, but he the actor who plays him, I think, did a very good job in playing him.
Yeah.
And
Ryan O'Neal, father of Tatum O'Neal.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. I was like, I kept during the whole movie, I was like, man, that guy looks familiar. And then I saw it said Ryan O'Neal. I was like, why? Because for some reason, I always thought the O'Neals was like the kind of traditional O'Neal, like Neil.
Right.
But it was but theirs is O'Neal, like Neal.
Right.
So yeah, it didn't click to me until I looked it up and I was like, oh my god, that's him. I was like, I knew that was him.
Right. And the main character has a lot of he's a very passionate, hardworking. While he does have a lot of luck, he does also take a lot of advantage of a lot of the opportunities that are thrust in front of him, good or bad. And it's starting off the movie. I think many of men can kind of relate to his story of he initially falls in love with, well, maybe not cousin love.
Not exactly every man can relate, but just the general principle of a man falling in love with a woman, especially at a very young age, when you think every woman that you meet is the woman that you're destined to be with.
Right, and he messes around with this woman who is his cousin, and
right. But also it's not it's not as though it's one-sided. It's this cousin is also kind of down for him as well.
Right, and that's kind of where the movie starts, and there's this growing jealousy as she starts to dance and be with other men, and that kind of starts Redmond Barry on his journey because this guy is, back in those days when you were embarrassed or slandered, or you people would end up having some sort of fight about it. In the case of this movie, this guy would duel everybody. Yeah, I think there was probably 3 or 4 duels that this guy ends up in through the course of the movie.
True. Yeah, because when he's a professional gambler, he's people are challenging him to duels left and right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's and it wasn't always pistols at dawn. Sometimes it was sword fights, sometimes it was fist fights, but the guy never stood down from a fight. So, a lot of times, it starts off on his journey. He ends up one of the guys that is going after this girl that he loves, or thinks that he loves. He ends up dueling him, but he gets fooled into thinking that he won the duel and that he needed to get out of town in a hurry.
Yeah, but because again, the guy he dueled was, because Redmond Barry is an Irishman, and that even back then the Irish weren't looked upon very favorably, and the suitor of the cousin that he was in love with was an English officer in the army, and his cousin's family came upon hard times, and if that officer was to marry into or marry the cousin, then the family would then have access to his money.
Yeah.
And so they set up this duel thing because I guess they knew his character, and he Redmond Barry is not the type to stand down from a challenge, and they duel with pistols, but they just loaded his pistol with not a blank, but I guess in 18th century terms, a rubber bullet.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, and so so he thinks that he's killed the suitor, and because he is a British officer in the army, he's you have to lay low, you have to lay low till this blows over. And so his family talks him into to leave the small village that that he's from and head to the big city of Dublin. And that's pretty much where the I guess primary story kicks off.
Right, and he all throughout it we have kind of a narration, someone reading that book to us, and talking about how Redmond Barry went through these adventures. He went from being he was leaving town, ends up getting robbed, comes into contact with the English Army recruitment office, joins up,
goes to war,
goes AWOL, and then kind of just, like I said, the luck factor. He's always kind of seeming in a bad situation, yet finding company with the right people that help him out and
right,
kind of move him further along his journey.
Right, because when he was in the British Army, just so happens one of his old friends from back home is an officer, and he was constantly looking out for him back then, and so in the army he's I'll as long as you have me, you'll always have a friend.
Right.
And so he was kind of a father figure to him, always looking out for him. But then during one of the first battles that he's in, that friend ends up dying. And so after that happens, he Redmond Barry's character sees no need or no longer sees a need to be in the army. And so he deserts, and so he then goes about stealing the uniform of an officer, and then tries to make his way back home. But on his way, he's intercepted by a Prussian officer, who then figures out that he's a deserter and gives him an option. He's like either go to jail or serve in the Prussian army. And
Right.
and being the clever Irishman that he is, he says, I'll volunteer. And so he ends up.
Right.
What was that?
I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's like,
so,
I'll just volunteer.
Yeah, and so he serves in the Prussian army in I forget what war. And so he serves.
I think you were saying it was the 7 Years' War. Was the war that was happening at that time? That's
right.
What they were.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And then in one battle,
narration of the movie. This is what the war that they were talking about during the movie.
True. That's right. And so he joined the Prussian army, and then during this one battle, what is it? The officer that had kind of coerced him into joining the Prussian army, is injured by a cannon shell exploding a building that they're standing in. A beam lands on him, and Redmond Barry lifts the beam up and carries him out to safety, and and it's at that point another stroke of luck happens for him, and that captain offers him a way out, and not initially implicit, but later on, I'll explain it later, a way out of the army, and of course he takes it, and the job was to spy on this individual, professional gambler who goes by the Chevalier.
Yeah.
And they want Redmond Barry to spy on him because they don't know whether he's a Frenchman or German, but there's a suspicion that he's an Irishman.
Right.
And so they set it up for him to go and kind of interview for the position of valet for the Chevalier. Oh, that rhymed.
Yeah.
And
valet for the Chevalier.
Yeah, valet for the Chevalier. Anyways, Redmond is standing before the Chevalier, and he's being questioned, and immediately he already knows the truth, and the Chevalier is an Irishman, and because he's been away from home for so long, to be in the company of one of his countrymen was so great that he confesses his entire purpose of being there. That he was there to spy on him and to collect intel or whatever, and so the Chevalier then admits that he's an Irishman, and so takes Redmond Barry under his wing, and and uses him as a double agent. To feed the Prussian government, counterintelligence, false information.
Yeah, and it's kind of through finding him, he's able to escape the hands of the army, and kind of is able to, and he decides that it's time, I'm gonna live this lavish lifestyle. He was determined to stay within that lifestyle. So
right.
he became kind of the helping hand to the Chevalier to become a gambler and take people's money. And because he was such an expert duelist, he would always be able to enforce that they pay their debts, and would
right.
So that was in a sense he was a 18th century what's the not a loan shark, but he was the enforcer essentially. He was
right.
The muscle.
Yeah, because the Chevalier was the loan shark, because when the Chevalier put on makeshift gambling parties, he never dealt in like actual money, but he only he worked on credit.
Right.
And so whoever didn't pay up on like the bill, that's when Redmond Barry would step in, because because back then it was an honor culture, and if your honor was if you felt your honor was being impugned, or even like just being pissed on, you challenge someone to a duel to restore your honor.
I demand satisfaction.
Right. So, that exactly. And so, yeah. And so, after working with the Chevalier for a number of years, Redmond has it in his mind to, basically marry up. Because the notion of like romantic love and stuff, like all like was kind of evaporated from his being. Like he wasn't like that idealistic young man where it was like oh, I'm in, I love you so much, I'll fight anyone for for you, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that, and I think he was kind of over that, because he went through like kind of that situation earlier in his life too. So
right, precisely, yeah. So like that the youthful like passion that burned in him before like completely fizzled out, or burned itself out. And so he set his sights on a young woman married to like kind of like the cliche of what you think about back in the day with marriages, especially like really older man and a very young woman.
correct.
And he begins to seduce her
successfully.
And the old man husband eventually dies, and he marries her, but because he's a commoner, he doesn't have access to the title, which is like the lordship.
Right, and
which was left to his stepson, the actual like the son of the former husband, who was the actual heir to the fortune.
Right. And it was and this is the part of the story where he kind of his greed, and he tries to make his own luck in a sense, instead of letting things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And as the narrator aptly says, this is now him seeking after this lordship, and trying to make this happen was his downfall.
Yeah, and it was actually his, like kind of like how God, what's the sister's name in Godfather?
Oh, I always
Connie.
just
Connie,
like Rocky's wife.
Yeah, but Connie or Adrian, in the Rocky movies, but Connie in the Godfather, kind of like the role that Connie eventually takes as like kind of like the supportive mother, in Godfather 3. Redmond's mother, is kind of looking after him and her grandson, saying, hey, none of this is, this fancy house that you live in, the nice clothes that you wear, none of it belongs to you. None of it you can take with you, if, your wife were to die, because it's all in the control of your wife. And, it'll eventually then be under the control of your stepson, because it's your stepson's stuff. It's your stepson's money. that you're playing with right now. But you need to secure yourself. You need to secure the future for yourself, and you need to secure the future for my grandson. And so, yes, that's when Redmond goes on this campaign to obtain a title. And so, he starts, rubbing elbows with the right people and inviting the right people over to his house and making, certain acquisitions like paintings and property and things like that above like their market value, just so that he can get in good with, the elites. But like Robert was saying, it all kind of comes undone. With the help of his stepson, because one of the things that precipitates his stepson turning against them was a beating that Redmond dispenses after during a tutoring session. Redmond's stepson's half brother was kind of being annoying, and then he kind of kicks up a fuss, and so being the older brother, he couldn't take it anymore and begins to spank him, and that's when Redmond comes in. It's like, oh, how I told you not to lay a hand on this child, basically saying like, don't ever touch my kid.
Right.
And so, and then he dispenses.
I think where the real where it started with the stepson's hatred for Redmond Barry was when he saw him screwing around on his mom, like at a young age.
True.
But yeah, like then it like really was exacerbated by that feeding that Redmond gave him.
Right, and so he then issues a decree like, oh, that's the last time you'll lay a hand on me, and if you do it again, I will kill you. And so nothing more of that was said. But then during like kind of like a concert at their house, where his mother and his tutor were kind of showing off to like all of Redmond's fancy friends. He comes in very disruptively with his younger brother in tow, wearing the little brother was wearing his shoes and making like this big like kind of disturbance. And then he basically calls out everyone. He calls out his mom for being being looser than Gerald Fogel's pants after the Subway diet.
Yeah.
And also his stepfathers for saying like, oh, you weren't, you weaseled your way into this family, and now like now you're gonna ruin everything.
Pretty
Yeah, and then he also like said like how like he also says that his mom was like a really a rotten mother. And it's at that point that Redmond like loses his shit and he proceeds to beat the shit out of his stepson.
Oh, he went all trailer trash on him in
yeah, exactly. He went
party.
Trailer park. Yeah, he went trailer park on his ass, and then that was the beginning of the downfall because like he because instead of like practicing patience and like beating him out of the sight of all of those high elite well-to-do people, he did it right in front of him. It was funny because it took like 10 men to restrain him.
Yeah,
at least that's what it looked like from that's what it looked like from the shots.
Was it he showed them how they do things down in Berryville?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like the stepson like called them out, like oh you're from Ireland, and you should just make you should just go back to where you came from. And so yeah, that pushed him over the edge, and he proceeded to yeah, Redmond Barry proceeded to beat the ever living shit out of his
Oh
stepson.
man, he kicked his ass.
Yeah, and so it goes on, and then it takes a tragic turn when Redmond Barry's son dies. Uh, because of an accident after falling off a horse, and then it was at that and then a little bit later on, um, Redmond Barry's mother, his wife, is devastated at the loss of her child, and so she's like in no position to take care of things at the house. And so Redmond Barry's mother steps in and kind of starts taking over, and she kind of starts off with firing the tutor, Reverend Runt, who is, if you want to know what he looks like, think of a Pixar character. Just think of a Pixar character. It doesn't matter which one, but if you are a fan of Pixar, you'll understand what I mean. Very sharp edges, and pointy. Think that, and you'll know what I'm talking. You'll have an understanding of what Reverend Runt looks like.
He's one of the most cartoonish human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Right, not just in terms of character, like the character that the actor portrays, but just in physicality.
Yeah.
Physically is like the most cartoonish person you've ever seen.
But yeah, the tutor gets fired, and then he's had enough. Their CPAs had enough. Their accountants had enough.
Right.
They go to the son and saying it's like this is all your stuff. It's going down the tubes. Like you need to reclaim it. Mm-hmm. And they kind of essentially finish off Redmond Barry.
Yeah. And like the climax, the stepson, what is it? Is it Bullingdon?
Yeah, Bullingdon.
Bullingdon, yeah. He goes and confronts Redmond Barry and challenges him to a duel. Not swords, pistols. And because he's still a boy, probably 16, 17.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty safe assumption.
Yeah, because when Redmond married his mother, he was probably around 8 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the half brother, he had a birthday turning 8.
Yes.
Or so that'd make him at least 16.
Yeah, so it's like by the time the end of the movie is, it'd been like another year or two.
Right.
So yeah, he was probably about like 18, 19 years old at the time.
Right. And so so he challenges to a duel of pistols, and it wasn't the duel where you both fire at the same time. You actually have to take turns. And so like they do a coin flip, and Bullingdon wins. And so he's allowed to go first. But, him still being a boy and not having experienced the world, or being prepared to live in that world, he's physically, shaking, and, he even, like, throws up at the prospect of having to shoot Redmond. And so, he takes his pistol. He's instructed to, cock it, but he doesn't do it right, and so the gun goes off. The pistol goes off, and so he asks for another one, but he's like, oh, well, the rules are, that if the gun goes off, that was your shot, but the bullet, harmlessly was shot into the ground. And so then it's Redmond's turn, and since this wasn't his first rodeo, he's able to handily use the weapon. And when he's given the instruction to aim, he actually points it away and towards the ground, and he shoots it, harmlessly away from his stepson, Bullingdon.
He shows him mercy.
Yeah, he shows him compassion. He shows him mercy. But then, he's asked, and you can see on his face how relieved he is that he wasn't shot.
Yeah.
But then, he's asked, I was like, oh, well, Lord Bullingdon, are you satisfied? He's like, have you received satisfaction? And stupidly, he says, no.
Yeah.
And so, and then, Redmondberry's like, you see on his face that he's surprised. Like, I just showed you mercy, kid, and you still want to kill me.
Yeah, you can see like the, that look on Redmond's face where he's like, kind of like are you fucking kidding me? You're.
Yeah.
And it's like I would have killed you, but I didn't do it. I think part of it was I don't think he wanted to devastate his wife any further because she just lost her young son. To lose her only remaining son, I think that would have killed her if he had done that.
Because she actually did try and kill herself, which precipitated Bullingdon, the stepson, to come and challenge Redmond.
Right, and then and so he shows him mercy because obviously if he wasn't faking, he definitely just didn't know what he was doing.
Right,
and it was kind of a sad end to the movie because Bullingdon ends up getting his second turn. Mm-hmm. And shoots him in the leg, which ends up causing him to lose his leg and ends up really like losing everything. He's just like at the beginning of the film, he's sent away, never to return.
Right. Yeah, and to kind of ensure that he, doesn't try and return, and to kind of like to give him like hush money. He promises that he'll receive 500 guineas or whatever,
right,
for the rest of his life. If he doesn't just come back, not only to like the town or their home, is like out of the country.
Yep, he had to go back.
Yeah, so Redmond goes back to Ireland. Where he stays there for a short while and then heads back over to Europe to live his life as a professional gambler.
Yeah, but at that time, he's completely lost his luck.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie thus far, but I would say I enjoyed it. I think the experimental. I think what I enjoyed the most was like experimental lighting that Kubrick was doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because there was one shot in particular where, well, actually, I think it was like a few shots, but they were lit only by candlelight. That was the only light source. There was no like artificial light source that they used to like kind of fill in like the darkness. They just used candlelights, and it was magnificent.
It was spectacular.
Yeah, and then also what is it? Kubrick's attempt to recreate those kind of Dutch impressionist portraits or paintings. That was really great. And if you don't know what Dutch impressionist is usually the portrait is at 3/4 turn from the viewer, so kind of like like this, and like always lit by window light. So like there's like always like a highlight on like this side of the face, and like more or less the other half is like in shadow. And it was phenomenal the way he was able to recreate. There was actually the towards the end of the movie when Bullingdon goes to face Redmond. Everything looks like a Dutch impressionist painting.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed that.
So I really enjoyed that part of the film too. That was actually what drew me to watch it, because I was like, well, this is going to be pretty interesting to see how that worked out, and it looked fantastic. I was more than pleased with the cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was surprised. Like, I actually really liked the story a lot. Yeah, it was kind of a tragic tale, as most Kubrick films tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I like the main character. Actually, I felt like the whole movie was pretty well cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not really a ton of like super huge names,
Mm-hmm.
but well acted, well, and all the characters were characters that I cared about, and I was able to enjoy really the whole. I enjoyed it all the way through. Like I said, a little slow at times. There's not too many movies anymore that are that have intermissions.
Right. Yeah.
I think the only other one that I've seen in recently was like Ben-Hur had an intermission.
Right. Yeah. The original Ben-Hur.
Correct.
Yeah, and I guess apologies because our kind of summary of the movie took almost as long as the actual movie, but but now I guess we can quickly go into like what we thought of it, what were our favorite scenes, our kind of personal thoughts, and so I guess I think we both were floored by the kind of cinematography that Kubrick utilized. And also, we both really enjoyed the story.
I always thought it was funny that the both like the main character Redmond Barry or Barry Lyndon, as he later became known as, always looked like he was on the verge of tears.
Right, and just in terms of physically, I don't know, maybe it was just Ryan O'Neal, but like. Every single time, like the camera, like focused in on his face, like it looked like he was on the brink of, crying. He had cry face the whole time, essentially.
Oh, it was something that I consistently made fun of throughout the movie. As
I know. It's like, where's the cry face? Like, there it is.
We definitely Mystery Science Theater 3000 that movie the entire way through. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, especially What, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, we threw up on Twitter and Instagram. There was this one scene after he marries Lady Lyndon, where it's like Andy had one of the great lines. He's like, "Oh man, thug life," It's
yeah, cause she was like wearing like this fur kind of coat with like the hood up, and then Redmond was like just like had that pipe, just puffing, blooms up. I was just like, oh damn, that's like thug life, 18th century style.
Yeah. Oh man, we all had a good.
Yeah, so we did screen cap it, and then we put it up on our Instagram and Twitter. So if you if you want to go check it out, don't forget, podcast COJ, and Instagram is Circle Jerk Podcast. I thought it was pretty interesting towards the end, where Lady Lyndon was, signing the checks for the bills and things, and then, her son Bullingdon was essentially this, because he came back, to be like the big man and to take control of the situation and things like that. But at the end, his mother was still taking care of everything, and there is just kind of like this weird kind of parallel between him and his stepfather. Because even when his stepfather was around, his mother was still in charge.
Right. It was always Lady Lyndon that had the power,
mm-hmm.
and yet you have Barry Lyndon was always he wanted that power that he never quite attained, and then yet you had also on the other side you have Lord Bullington, who started out with he's supposed to have all this power, but then in the end he doesn't really have any at the same time. So they really are in a lot of ways the same person but in different roles.
Yeah, there's kind of like mirror images of each other.
Right.
But yeah, just like but another one thing that I tend to notice is that I mean, again, it might have been just like the prevailing kind of mindset at the time, but in the beginning, the tutor asked Bullingdon, say, "Oh, aren't you happy that you have a new father?" And he kind of he basically throws shade at him. He's like, "No, he's just like this commoner who he's weaseled his way into my family, and it's gonna ruin everything." But it's like he didn't like he didn't realize he didn't appreciate what was going on. Here's this guy who came from nothing but was able to get work his way up and into like a really well off family. So there like he didn't recognize that that maybe that there's something that he can learn from his stepfather.
Yeah, and it's like he attained a near noble status, from like absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And so I think for Bullingdon, I think it was just a missed opportunity to learn, and maybe to learn a certain different set of traits, a different set of skills, I should say, than he would have learned had his father had his actual father lived a little bit longer. Because again, like his actual father was on pretty much on death's door.
Right.
And like I can't imagine like what lessons his father might have taught him.
Yeah.
But he definitely so from the very beginning he set himself up to be a rival or a hurdle for Redmond Barry, as opposed to I'm not not as opposed to not being an ally, but just kind of using him for what skills that he could attain from him.
Right. But yeah, overall, I like I said, of the ones we've watched thus far, it's definitely my favorite of the three we've seen. It's kind of like a mix between Count of Monte Cristo meets Forrest Gump.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's what I said too.
Yeah. Well, I'm piggybacking off like what you told me earlier. It was like I felt that was.
I'd like. Yeah, but don't sell yourself short. You came up with a Monte Cristo thing, so.
True. We mixed our ideas together.
Yeah, because he was like saying like, yeah, this has like a real like Monte Cristo kind of vibe. I was like, yeah, but it's almost like Forrest Gump. Because here's this character that kind of happens upon situations, whether like advantageous or just kind of like misfortunate. So because it's that scene where he saves the Prussian captain, that was totally Forrest saving Bubba.
Yep, exactly. And then there was it's kind of the the reason I thought Count of Monte Cristo, because he's turning the whole his misfortune into something good. Like he finds something through the misfortune to he.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not revenge, but he's definitely he's definitely finding the good in situations.
Right. It is a marathon.
So
you want to have at least a few hours set aside if you want to watch.
Right.
It.
Yeah. If you you're gonna have a free weekend, yes. Set yourself up right. Get a cooler. of drinks. Keep a cooler of drinks handy. Get some snacks handy. Plop yourself down and watch this movie. Again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it watching with children, just in terms of content and also length of time. But if you enjoy a good story, if you enjoy experimental lighting techniques, I think this will be very enjoyable for you.
I will say though, this is definitely the cleanest movie we've seen so far from Stanley Kubrick. As far as language and violence and nudity and stuff like that.
There's nudity in this.
Ish.
No, there's a scene where the narrator was describing Redmond's infidelities, and he's like at the whorehouse.
True, but they never showed it.
Well, they showed boobs.
They didn't fully expose them though.
No, they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I guess I wasn't paying attention to that point.
If it's one thing I remember, it's boobs.
Oh well, okay. Well, it's definitely not as much as Clockwork Orange. That was extremely graphic.
Yeah. As compared to Clockwork Orange, or maybe even Eyes Wide Shut, yeah, it's very tame.
Very tame.
Yes. But still, again, not, I wouldn't recommend watching with the kids.
Definitely not.
All right. Let's get this thing wrapped up. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give it?
I give it a 3.5.
Okay. For me, kind of maybe 3.5, but then maybe also 4, just because of the photo nerd in me, and I really enjoyed the lighting techniques.
Yeah, I might have to agree with you on that. I wasn't putting that into the.
Yeah, you weren't calculating that as a factor.
If I'm putting that in as a factor, then I would go 4. But I'm just going based solely on story and acting.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 3.5. So 3.5 to 4.
Yeah. Okay. So this week we're aligned, and we on solely story and performance, we give it a 3.5. But if we're also gonna include the kind of the technical, nerdy photo stuff, that because the lighting techniques, then we give it a 4.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, apologies. I know the rundown of the movie was nearly as long as the movie itself, but we got through it. And believe it or not, we are coming up on 2 hours.
Man, that flew by.
Yeah, no, yeah, it totally did.
And I'm much happier now that we talked about this movie. I'm much happier now that we've talked about this movie.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm in a much happier headspace.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fucking bitch.
Yeah.
And you all know who I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yep.
I guess we'll shut it down because your eyes are getting real low, son.
Are they? I don't.
Yeah, your eyelids are getting real. There was a point where your eyes were shut for a few seconds.
Oh well, I didn't think that they were, but all right.
All right, I guess that's we're gonna end it here for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to catch us every Tuesday here on the Circle of Jerks channel, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard. Don't forget to check out the library of other videos, main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, Up By Up Down, and don't forget to be on the lookout for more
Tons of new content.
What was that?
Tons of new content.
Right, tons of new content. Don't forget, so be sure to be subscribed so you can get notifications of when episodes of the main podcast are uploaded. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. All right.
Oh, I was going to say, and next week we're doing Spartacus.
Spartacus! All right. Well, yeah, there you have it. There's your movie of the week. If you if you want to watch it as well, and maybe leave some comments in the live chat. We'll be happy to read them, and also welcome your input.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, gang. That's it. See y'all next week. Good night.
Peace.